Greetings, Merry Christmas. Welcome to the penultimate episode of 2024 of the Steve Deace Show. It is our perennial two-part look back at the year that was. It'll be our year-end Deace Group in just a moment with me, Steve Deace, alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. You know it's bigly when Todd gets a haircut. If Todd made sure to get a haircut, it's a big episode that we have forthcoming. You know that. Yes.
And Christmas meets Star Wars.
And Christmas meets Star Wars. I mean, he's basically in a tux. All right. Correct. We are going to be joined by our friend and colleague, Sara Gonzales, who looks phenomenal in the new Blaze Trump Christmas sweater. I'm loving it, which I had no idea we were selling. Otherwise, I would have gotten one for myself. And FBI whistleblower. Now it's his former girlfriend, Stephen Friend, will be joining us here in just a few minutes as well. We are brought to you today by a host of people, including our friends over at Relief Factor. If you've been struggling with chronic pain, you probably thought, well, that just happens once you get older. I'm just going to sit here in the lazy boy and die. Well, I mean, that might happen. That's, our bodies do expire, but sometimes we kind of give up a little too easily, especially where chronic pain is concerned. What's chronic pain? Well, there's two kinds, clinical and chronic. If you've got clinical, seek professional medical help. But preferably with a physician who didn't tell you to wear a mask. But then also, if you have chronic pain, then that's probably from too much inflammation in your joints, and that's where Relief Factor comes from. It is the drug-free supplement created by physicians who didn't wear masks and don't and can prescribe drugs, but they wanted to go after what's causing the chronic pain in the first place, and that something is Relief Factor. No guarantee here it's going to work, but over the years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start for just $20. 70% of them saw such great results in 3 weeks or less. They stuck with the product long term. So what do you got to lose? Why don't you see if you don't see a difference in your pain level in 3 weeks or less when you go to relieffactor.com? Get the 3-week quick start at relieffactor.com. And with that, it is time for the year-end Deace Group. Your yearly look at the year that was. We're going to run through as many of these categories over the next 2 hours as we possibly can. We probably won't get through them all because Sara will talk too much, okay? Although with the former FBI agent here, I'm thinking people are going to only give the minimum amount of information that they need to throughout the rest of this afternoon. Fair? All right. We're going to get through as many of these as we can, and then we will save what's left over for the overtime today. Are we ready to go? I'm just going to randomly pick the order. All right. Ready to go?
Launch.
I will start. Biggest winner, I am going to go with the American people, since I think rightfully pretty much everybody else is probably going to choose Trump. All right. But I'm going to go with the American people just to switch it up here from the top, because I want to be fair to the American people, because I have dumped on y'all, particularly the normies, quite a bit the last few years. I mean, I'm Hawkeye in the rain, just slaying like Ronin, okay, to self-medicate. And don't give me hope. That's essentially where I've been with normies since election night 2022, right? I mean, we've come a long way from Jason Whitlock contemplating committing felonies with Michael Malice, Glenn contemplating my firing, okay? I mean, the last 2 years I've just normies have been number one on the excrement list on the Steve Deace Show, right? But the normies, just when we lost all faith in the normies, you all came through in this election cycle. So I wanted to make sure to lead it off in the spirit of humility and mercy mild. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to the normies. You guys helped us to bail America out this year, and so the American people are the big winners. Sara.
I kind of did what you did, Steve. I tried to take a step back from the obvious answer, right? And I went with the world. So you say the American people, I say the entire world. You have all of this global instability that we see popping up all across the world. We've got Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, the Biden regime, we found out, has been actively working for them to not negotiate into a deal. You've got Israel and Iran. And so we've seen what can happen. I mean, in my lifetime, Steve, I was never so cognizant of what a weak America really does to the entire world. And it wasn't until this presidency that I was like, holy cow, I always knew, right? You always know, you're always taught it in school, but you never really, I didn't really see it visibly in front of me as I did with this Joe Biden presidency for 4 years. So I'm going with the world. Donald Trump is going to bring stability back. Donald Trump is going to bring the economy back. Donald Trump is going to bring so many things back for not just the American people, but the entire world.
We are the world. We are the children. Bruce Springsteen just screaming that into the mic. All right, Todd. Yes.
We don't compare notes, but I'm the same. It's we the people. I said this was not an election. It was a trial of the American people. And the people, it's not an out-and-out victory, but we got parole. And that's saying something because it was dead man walking for a while. So I'll take it, but we got work to do.
Steve.
Bitcoin. It is now over $100,000 for each coin. And thanks to the Bidenflation, everyone who was into the crypto flooded and drove the value up. And now you have an incoming administration that seems to be open to that idea. The debanking is going to be over. And I think that you're going to see crypto continue to become an actual legitimate means of exchange. So only all going up from here.
Does anybody have the feeling Steve Friend is going to 4D chess us the entire 2 hours?
I feel like every answer is a test now. I do. All right. Who's listening? Who's watching? By the way, man, I'm feeling every time I check my crypto account right now, my Bitcoin account, I'm feeling like Richard Pryor in Brewster's Millions. I should have just busted in today with the white tux and the top hat. All right. Aaron.
I'm going with kind of off the board here because those answers were tremendous. Barron Trump. He apparently played a huge role in getting Donald Trump talked into going on all of these podcasts, and I guess by extension the podcasting world as well. But if that's true, and I have no reason to doubt it, he's a big winner here.
No doubt.
And maybe an under-the-radar winner.
I think that will be something I will mention later on in our categories. All right, biggest loser. Sarah, I'll go back to you for that.
Biggest loser, I would say the Democrat Party as a whole. The entire Democrat Party, you had all of these radicals in the administration, all of these DEI hires, all of these, policies. You had Cori Bush, who lost in the primary. You had Jamal Bowman, who lost as well, because they have finally overplayed their hand, which they often do, right? We always see them do it. But you had this pendulum swing. And finally, the American people said, you guys are actually really crazy. And we may not love everything that Donald Trump does, but we're not down with that. So I'm going to say the entire Democrat Party.
For the first time since 1980, every state in a presidential election went further right than it did in the last election cycle. That had not happened since 1980, to bolster Sarah's point. Todd.
Mine is absolutely related to that. It's the entire Trump is Hitler narrative. Gone. Steve, you mentioned last week he's more popular now than he's ever been.
That's just from a PR standpoint. Yeah. That is a borderline miraculous, just for anybody. I don't care what personality type you are, to be as well known as he already was, as well defined as he already was, and to end up with higher favorables than you've ever had, it's just truly remarkable.
And it's because there's all kinds of people from all over the spectrum who just at some point said, I don't love him, I don't hate him, but he's definitely not Hitler. I mean, that's what draws me to him, honestly, more than anything. Obviously, he's not a Christian, he's not a conservative, but the fact that you need me to believe he's Hitler, that's actually why I'm on his side the most, because that's just stupid. He's not a racist, he's not a bigot, he's just Donald Trump.
Aaron?
I know we are in the festive time of year, so going scorched earth might be a little out of left field, but it's the anonymous...
It is the Steve Deace Show.
It is the Steve Deace Show.
Yes.
The anonymous only DeSantis Twitterati. I'm sorry, the primary never even happened, but to the extent that it did, it was over about a year ago. Going online, anonymous, all the time, and just going scorched earth all the time, it's beyond unhelpful, and you're the biggest loser this year. And if I'm not talking about you... I'm not talking about you, but if I am, I am.
That's if you throw the rock into the pack of dogs, the one that yelped is the one you hit, right? Blows my mind, too. The thing about that phenomenon that it just blew my mind all year long is everyone else who then supported Trump in the general was a total sellout to this crowd, except Ron DeSantis, who raised more money for him than any of us possibly could, spoke at his convention when none of us were able to do that, okay? And I'm just here to tell you, I'll be careful what I say, but I saw someone post on Twitter when the news came out that Trump was going to take Ron DeSantis with him to the Army-Navy game. And one of the blue check marks on Twitter said, well, it appears that Trump and DeSantis's personal relationship is not necessarily what you see between the two camps of their respective followings on Twitter. And I can just tell you firsthand, I know that for a fact. I can just tell you, I heard this directly from the horse's mouth. Pretty much, you can take a couple of months to get over everybody being butthurt and bitter. Pretty much from about June on, they were communicating on a regular basis. One of the first people Trump talked to in the hospital after he got shot was Ron DeSantis, for example. They were communicating on a pretty regular basis, and I'll leave it at that. So to my biggest loser, I'm going to go meta here, and I'm going to say the entire spirit of the age really lost badly this year. From indictments to convictions to assassination attempts, a de facto coup against Joe Biden, and then outspent their opponents 4-1. And what do they have to show for it here for all of these efforts? I just would have never guessed this in a million years. I don't think, as great as the decision and strategy was to go on the podcast, you can't, in the natural realm, you can't dodge all these things that I just talked about. You couldn't have orchestrated them all. You could not have defeated them all. All right. This election, I think more than anything else in recent years, is the final confirmation there are just clearly forces at work within this culture war beyond us, because there's no strategist that could have, there's no one the Trump campaign could have found that said, hey, how do we get the Democrats to coup their own candidate and then nominate a nitwit moron? Okay, how do we do that? Couldn't have made that happen. Likewise, there's no way to out-strategize 94 felony indictments and everything else that they had to do on the defensive side. So the spirit of the age, man, went all in and came up with squat. Steve.
Nikki Haley, the candidate for 2006, right? She occupied the establishment wing of the Republican Party. She set her whole career up. She was a UN ambassador, made a cabinet position in the prior Trump administration, and she was geared up to run down the middle here as Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump are going to split the MAGA vote. Didn't happen for her, and now she's left out in the cold. She's not going to be allowed into the second Trump administration, and she's resigned to being on her podcast, I guess, that she has, ripping the selection of RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. So her career prospects seem to be in the toilet, and rightfully so.
Again, that's another mention that's going to come up for me a little bit later on, too. Steve, let me go right back to you. Who is the best politician this year?
Mitch McConnell, the old glitch there on his way out the door, ensured that John Thune assumed to become the majority leader in the Senate. And then they've gone forward and passed a bunch of things in the lame duck session here. And I think that he got the mandate, as so many of them did on November 5th. Not the mandate that we sent them, which was for the paradigm shift that we all wanted, the disruption to the status quo. But the mandate that they got was put as many roadblocks and speed bumps up as you could to keep business as usual up there. So even on his way out, when old glitch can't seem to keep both his feet underneath him, he had a last parting shot here with John Thune.
I hate you for that answer.
That hurts.
But it's a good one. Todd.
I'll say J.D. Vance. He's a story that we need to see happen a lot more in Republican politics. He doesn't fit. People like him would end up being using all the excuses of their poor upbringing to basically turn into a Michael Moore politician. Mm-hmm. And he just has refused to. And because of that, I mean, it's not fake. He had very, very real upbringing. So even when he ultimately was, he had opinions about Trump early on, mm-hmm. he saw reality taking shape before him. He confidently moved in another direction without betraying fundamental principles. And now, as a man in his 40s, he is the vice president of the he's going to be the vice president of the United States.
Nice. Aaron.
Same answer. Just point to the VP debate. Who knows how big of an impact that had. But he was trying to, they tried to typecast him as weird, and he came off as anything but. And just at a meta level, he seems to be very genuine, which is a difficult thing for any politician to pull off.
Sarah?
I agree. I had J.D. Vance as well. And it's not just that he's, his story is just such an embodiment of what the American dream is, what American opportunity really is. But he's charismatic. He's masterful at taking down the mainstream media and all of these interviews. He's willing to go out there and do it. And I think that he represents it's sad to say because he's in his 40s, but he represents the younger generation in politics that we need. You know, we need more JD Vances and less Mitch McConnells, Glitch McConnells, as Steve Friend is pointing out here. You know, we've got these guys who are going in there and they're just set on ruling for 50 years and dying in office because they don't want to give up the power. And we have this new younger generation that is ready to be passed the torch. I love it. I love to see it.
I've got to go with Trump. And I would love to go back and tell myself a year ago at this time as we're taping this, that in the next 12 months, Donald Trump's going to beat 94 felony indictments. He's going to survive 2 assassination attempts. He's going to be outspent 4-1. And that's on top of the inherent institutional bias that any Republican nominee has to face. He's going to have to beat 2 different Democratic nominees. And he's going to end up more popular than ever was before. Yeah. He's going to be the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. He's going to outright win Hispanic men by 10 points. Outright win them. Have the highest percentage of Hispanic vote any Republican has ever had. Expand his coalition on a 3rd run. I've never seen anything like this in American politics. And oh, by the way, he's also going to do something that almost no politician gets to do the guy that you guys just all picked. He's going to nominate his own heir. He's going to nominate his own and put in place his own potential crown prince to continue his brand. And I mean, that's even Reagan handing it off to Bush. Bush was not an heir to the Reagan throne. He was just the next guy in line. I mean, this is in many respects, Vance is an even more meta embodiment of Trump's agenda than Trump could ever hope to be himself. So, it's the most remarkable singular year of a politician. I mean, I don't know, the last time, like maybe since a guy, won beat the British Armada and got elected president in a year. I mean, I'm trying to go back. And when was the last time someone did something like this? I mean, FDR getting elected 4 times, but he dies in office before he gets to see victory over Germany and Japan, right? So, I mean, I can't come up with... Now, that would be a pretty good year. If FDR had lived to celebrate VG and VJ, or VE and VJ Day, have to give it to him for that, right? But he didn't, okay? So I can't come up with a politician in American history that's ever had a better year than this, except a guy named Washington.
I think all 3 of us would probably just say, on some level, we don't even think he's technically a politician, but this is something bigger than politics that is going on here.
Fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
All right, before we continue on, speaking of something bigger than politics, the new movie Homestead is about what happens when a nuclear blast devastates Los Angeles and much of the West Coast, sends the American government into chaos. Is it a foreign attack? Is it domestic? What's happening? And then how do people come together during such a traumatic but also galvanizing moment? It's very well acted, including Neil McDonough, and a really nice supporting role for Jarrett LeMaster over at the Babylon Bee. A lot of you are going to know him and in a star-making role as security guard B in Nefarious. All right, he was security guard B in Nefarious, and now he's actually got way more of a speaking part, and he's really good, as a matter of fact. The movie is really interesting. It's a pilot, actually, to what they hope will be a series. So if you want to see this film, it hits theaters on December the 20th. Go to angel.com/Steve. Get your tickets now. Angel.com/Steve. If you pre-order your tickets that way, you've got a chance to win a $300,000 giveaway that includes 1 Bitcoin, a fully furnished tiny home from Box House, a custom Polaris, OHV from Sparks Motors, and everything else you'd need to start your own homestead. If you just heard what Steve Friend said, by the way, the Bitcoin alone might be worth $300,000 here before too soon. All right, so angel.com/Steve is where you want to go. Pre-order your tickets for Homestead today in theaters this Christmas. Angel.com/Steve. All right, Steve Friend, let me go back to you. Most defining political moment of 2024.
I'm going to go back before all the other ones that I think are probably going to come to mind, the assassination attempt and the Biden debate with Trump. But to me, it's ultimately the special counsel announcing that Joe Biden wouldn't be charged because he had significantly limited memory and characterized him as an elderly man who just couldn't stand trial. It was an acknowledgement of the human Roomba occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue from the establishment. And at that point, we all still just watched and shrugged our shoulders. And still, to this day, Joe Biden is the most powerful human who has ever walked the planet. And he continues to occupy that position until January 20th.
How about the fact of everything that went on this year? And I totally forgot that the Department of Justice admitted the United States president is legally incompetent. I just completely forgot about that till you just mentioned it. That's incredible. Aaron.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be the fight, fight, fight. Not only was it just incredibly inspiring in that moment to see a man like that get up and beckon his followers like that, but it's the most defining because it touches on several different touchstones of this era, regardless of whether you fall on incompetence to malevolence, but it was the incompetence or malevolence, I happen to think it's the latter, of the current regime came within a centimeter of getting that guy's head blown off, and yet he overcame. That's kind of the defining moment for me.
I'm with you. I mean, to get me to drive across town takes a lot. You guys well know this.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday, even more, okay? But I literally drove across town on a Saturday night, and that was also something I did not have on my 2024 bingo card, okay? I said all along I was going to vote for Trump if he won the primary. But the idea that on a Saturday night, I would drive across town to go get a Trump sign in my yard, that was not on my Pat Gray 2024 bingo card, but that happened because of what you just said. So that's my selection as well. How about you, Todd?
Same. I mean, it's fun to try to find a different angle, but I made no such commitment after that. I was, for the reasons I say about the Hitler thing. Like you can disagree with him. He's in a lot of days he's not inspiring to me, but no, you don't get to kill him. No, absolutely not. And also, furthermore, I think it's abundantly clear it changed him.
Oh, there's no question.
Which is important for the reasons why he's going to be just more likable, and apparently is across the board for a lot of different people.
I have talked to several people that have spent private time with him in the last few months and have done so multiple times over the years. And they have all said to me the same exact thing. Just different person than he was even 6 months ago. And that's the thing too about the fight, okay? Because they're not taking shots at Donald Trump because they're corporate rivals of him, right? They're taking shots at him because he represents people like you, whether you and I want him to or not. Mm-hmm. That's how they see him.
Yeah.
That was really, therefore, aimed at people like you and me. Yes. Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. It was the assassination attempt on live television with millions of people watching. And in that moment, it's like you really see someone's true character. Mm-hmm. That was not Donald Trump trying to play up for the cameras. That was Donald Trump's true character right after he knew that he had gotten shot. He was hit. And so it was just really, I mean, not just defining for, politics, but just defining his character. And I think that was what drove a lot of people, as Todd pointed out, what drove a lot of people to say, okay, I don't like his tweets. I consider them mean. But look at how brave this guy is. Anyone else would have cowered. Yep. And, you hear him talking with Secret Service. At no point does he sound scared, you know? And so it was so defining for his true character. And I would just like to point out, gentlemen, really quickly, how unprecedented of times are we living in? I tell my son this all the time, my 12-year-old. I'm like, you don't understand this now. You are going to read history books about the last 5 years of our lives with COVID happening and the lockdowns and the cover-ups and the scandals leading into whether or not you believe Joe Biden won in the safest and most secure election of all time, to what he did with his regime, to the assassination attempt, to the 91 indictments. I mean, it is insane when you take a step back and go, holy crap, the last 5 years, it's just been nonstop scandals. Yep. And to say all of that has happened, and then now we're talking about the most defining political moment being an assassination attempt. It's just wild when you think about it.
Right on. I mean, how about the fact, I think we should at least give honorable mention to the most defining presidential debate in America since Kennedy-Nixon, okay? I mean, there have been great debate moments, but a lot of times, maybe runner-up would be Reagan looking in the camera and saying, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? That's and it's rare that a debate really alters the outcome of an election, okay, other than 60, 80, maybe another one. I mean, Lloyd Bentsen had the greatest bomb drop in the history of presidential debates. You're no Jack Kennedy. Then him and Dukakis went out there and lost by 10 points, all right? Just to show that they don't always make much of a difference in the outcome. But to watch the scam of the president's senility open and exposed to 60 million Americans in the dead of summer when there was nothing else to talk about and nothing else to watch on television, and the entire gravitational pull of the media instantly switch now that the cat is out of the bag to trying to get him out of the race as soon as that night. Okay, what does it tell you that none of us even picked that? I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible to what Sara is saying to her 12-year-old son. All right, biggest traitor. A list that is long and distinguished. All right, I'll start with you, Aaron.
Man, I'm doing a preemptive one. During the U.S. v. Scrimeti oral arguments, there was one Supreme Court justice whom you would expect to ask questions of the counsel who did not. And his name rhymes with Gorsuch. That would be Neil Gorsuch. Now, we did have somebody on the show recently in the last few weeks who was pretty optimistic about this case, but I'm not as far as Neil Gorsuch goes, so I'm doing a preemptive one. I hope I'm wrong.
Here's the thing. One of the reasons Gorsuch has been Trump's best Supreme Court nominee.
On a lot of stuff.
On a lot of stuff. But as a typical libertarian, he's 100% right 80% of the time. And then the other 20%, you're like literally WTF, okay? The only reason you can make an argument, the only reason we have this Scrimeti case is because Gorsuch granted, quote-unquote, civil rights to trannies the last time that this came up, okay? He clearly has a blind spot on this particular kind of stuff, like a lot of libertarians do. So I hope you're wrong, but you're not crazy. I didn't even thought about that, actually. So thank you for ruining my Christmas, Todd. Go ahead.
Right here in our own backyard, Joni Ernst, and she has been for a long time. She's basically Iowa's most powerful Democrat. She needs to go. One other way or the other, she needs to go.
Exactly right. Steve.
RFK/Tulsi Gabbard, who RFK, he's royalty on the Democrats, and he gave up his birthright in that regard. And Tulsi Gabbard, who was on the stage in 2020 running for president for the Democrat nomination, and they came on over to the MAGA side and effectively brought with them their coalition and allowed the tent to be broadened to the extent that Donald Trump won not just the Electoral College, but the popular vote.
Why didn't I think of that?
That's very good.
I like it.
That's very good.
We are not worthy.
Yeah. Sara.
I'm going Joe Biden, after, of course, he spent years profiting off of putting his son in high places as vice president. He spent the entire 4 years destroying the country by importing third world criminals. He was hiked up gas prices and interest rates. He destroyed our credibility on an entire world stage. He DEI hired his way into weakening our military. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And then, just to add insult to injury, on his way out the door, he just decides to turn the dial up to 10. He is, granting clemency to a record amount of criminals, including, by the way, Chinese nationals, which is a little strange, right? All while introducing, again, after the millions and millions, record amounts of illegals, unvetted strangers he allowed into the country, he decided to make it easier for them to come through while giving the border hoppers, there's a new improved CBP One app where they can just simply check in on their phones. They don't actually have to go do the face-to-face that they signed up to do. So, I mean, it's just incredible to watch how traitorous he has been to this entire country. And by the way, just supported by all the Democrats as he's doing it.
That's a great answer, too. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the shepherds for sale that were exposed in great and courageous detail by our friend Megan Basham in her best-selling book, one of the best-selling conservative books of the year. And I was ecstatic to see, because that's kind of a nuanced topic, right? Okay. For that thing to have the breakout success that it had the crossover success it had was one of the most encouraging things, frankly, I saw this year. You could make an argument Megan wrote the most consequential nonfiction book of the year.
Agreed.
I mean, the ongoing debate that continues around that book, the people that were exposed. I mean, we're seeing things like Beth Moore leaving TBN and stuff now. Okay. I mean, that maybe that's a coincidence, but I don't know. She managed to hide herself there for the last 8 years while, peddling God knows what for theology. And all of a sudden now, after Megan's book, she's stepping aside. So hat tip to Megan Basham for that book, Shepherds for Sale, and exposing people who were worthy of being exposed.
Answer.
All right, when we come back, we'll pick it right up where we left off. Next category, most boring and most charismatic. Those are next. Stay tuned.
The Steve Deace Show.
So I know we're all feeling good about the direction things are headed right now, but this is actually the time to get prepared for the next, oh, that could never happen again before it happens again, right? Because it's not like evil's just going to be like, you got us! Good luck, guys. That's not how this is going to work, all right? I mean, as we're sitting here at Christmas time, there are still people in Western Carolina still digging out, still trying to get back to forms of normalcy that Americans have taken for granted for decades. In fact, it was after seeing what happened to the people in Western North Carolina that I finally just went to our own partner, My Patriot Supply, and said, man, hook me up. All right, I want the water treatment filtration package you guys have. I want the 4-week emergency food kits we've been talking about on the show for the last couple of years. You can get yours now for $50 off and free shipping if you go to my landing page at preparewithdace.com. That's preparewithdace.com. Now's the time to have the peace of mind. Don't get caught with your knickers down, all right? If it can happen to the people of Western Carolina, those are hardy people that are as self-reliant as any in America. And if they can be put in the position that they are, imagine if you're a soft, mammy-pammy suburbanite like me. All right, that's why I called Prepare with Dace. All right, that's why I went there and made sure I got hooked up as well. The food kits, breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks, the full 2,000 plus calories each day that you need, stays good for over 20 years as well. All right, preparewithdace.com is where you want to go, and go there now. Preparewithdace.com. All right, back here to the yearly look at the year that was, the year-end Deace Group. Let's go to most boring. Todd, you're first.
Well, Sarah, you are absolutely right that we are living in marvelous, amazing, transitional, transformative times, except the parts where we aren't. John Thune as Senate Majority Leader, same as it ever was.
It feels like we got a younger, and everything about Mitch McConnell you don't like, and none of the things you do. Like, on one level, you have to respect Glitch for how good of a politician he is, how clever he is, how shrewd he is. It feels like you got, the Brooks brother, low IQ, younger brother of Mitch McConnell, right? We got just as much fecklessness, but stupid.
I can do stuff.
Yeah, I can do this. Yeah, exactly. At least there was some Fredo to Mitch you could at least respect. Sarah, what about you?
I'm going a little bit outside of the political realm, but not really, because she did try to influence the election. I'm going Taylor Swift. All right. Maybe the act was cute when she was 16. The woman is now 35, and I just cannot fathom a grown adult giving a crap. I don't understand it. Her songs are boring. She has no personality. And, you hear all these rumblings about musicians and Hollywood actors making deals with the devil in exchange for stardom. And I just have to believe that is the case here, because I don't get it.
You don't get it. All right. Aaron.
The media, I mean, yeah, all of their greatest hits worked for a long time, but the first time now that it didn't work and didn't work spectacularly, they just went back to Russian collusion. Yeah. He's a fascist. He is literally Hitler. Come up with some new content, for crying out loud.
Agree. That's a great answer. I went Hillary Clinton. Okay, she shows up every few weeks, man, dressed like Benny Hinn, except now she's not wearing any makeup, so she looks like Rosie O'Donnell's butchy TikToks. Okay, all right, and it's just a brutal screed, and it's just some played out personal grievance, and I'm over it. I'm just totally over it. It's boring. I don't even have an emotional reaction to it anymore, other than an eye roll. I've had enough of it. Steve, what about you?
The subject matter of Harrison Butker's speeches. Newsflash, husband loves wife and is very grateful that she's there to support him in his endeavors and take care of his children, and they have a great partnership. And yet that was a flashpoint culturally for this entire country this year. I mean, again, that's one of those stories that people sort of forgot about.
I like the fact that G-Man here is inside outing us on a couple of these answers.
I'm saying he's
you know what I'm
playing
saying?
A different game.
Yeah. He is. I mean, this is so I'm gonna give the bare minimum amount of information moving forward. All right. Most charismatic, Steve, I'm going back to you. Go ahead.
I got to go with my quarterback, Kash Patel. Going to be the incoming director of the FBI. He's eminently qualified for that position. And the story behind the scenes that people don't know about him, when I was in my lowest point, having been suspended unpaid indefinitely forever, Kash Patel did some investigating, found out my phone number, and during Thanksgiving 2 years ago, contacted me and said he ran a charitable foundation that he wanted to support me and my family and give us $5,000 to get through Christmas.
Wow.
That's
and
incredible.
he asked me to keep it secret and not tell anyone, because this is something he likes to do and doesn't want any credit for.
Awesome. That's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother, for sharing that with us. That is incredible. Todd. Good luck following that,
I'm
by the way.
going with Elon Musk. I mean, he really is. He's the real life Tony Stark. I mean, what's so special about you? A billionaire, playboy, genius, philanthropist. You know, he's been an utter game changer because he's, you know, do you want to buy Twitter? Well, how much is it? Like, just to have F around money with
those instincts to go with
yes.
it.
Oh man,
yes.
It's just fun.
I mean, in all honesty, there are two things that really built America: Christianity and the kind of men that you just described.
He's an adventurer.
And sometimes Christianity and those kinds of men are at odds. Let's be honest, because it is a thin line between capitalist and robber baron, right? And a lot of times it's someone's morality and faith that stops them from crossing that line. Fair?
Yeah.
So it's not always a great marriage between Christianity and those kinds of men, but those men with those kinds of instincts and Christianity are essentially what built America.
And those are the kind of stories, I'm sure, I haven't had this conversation with him, but I want to. When Matthew Peterson talks about the new Blaze magazine, Frontier, this is what he's talking about. That what's out there? What can we explore? And it's not just, it's space, it's time, it's science, it's everywhere. It's talking about marriage again, like, duh, like Stephen Friend just did.
Yep. Steve, most charismatic, what do you think? Well, I did go back to you on that. I'm sorry. Aaron. Yes.
It's the same answer. I have a little bit more specific, but the left pissed off the wrong guy. They pissed off the wrong guy. You've noticed too, Apple, Google, they've never removed X from their stores. Why do you think that is? Because he has a lot of power too, and he has FU money, and they are afraid of him. They pissed off the wrong guy. Specifically, Elon Musk's X account is the most charismatic at about 1 a.m. in the morning.
What I do find endearing is he just goes off on stupid tangents, like I will do sometimes just for fun. It is kind of human. If you stop and think about the fact the richest man in the world just, poop tweets his favorite movies at 2 a.m., just randomly. All right, Sarah, go ahead. Yes.
I'm going the other half of Doge, Vivek Ramaswamy. I was really amazed at how I wasn't always sold on what he was saying. I didn't always trust 100% that he was telling the truth, but I was drawn to what he was saying and how he presented himself. I thought he did tremendous whenever he was, Donald Trump's spokesperson. There's something about his speech that is very commanding. And so that's why I picked him.
I went with JD Vance. And I mean, fight is next level cosmic stuff. I mean, the meme of the year, beyond that, you have to give that like its own tier. You can't really compare anything else other than one of the great moments in American history, okay? In typical political parlance, the meme of the year is the J.D. Vance head cock.
Yes.
Okay, that look. All right, that's the meme of the year. And I thought he dominated the media on every one of his appearances. I thought he dominated his convention speech. His appearances at Trump rallies. I think the VP debate, the VP debate, I think, was the turning point of the campaign for Trump. It was August and September did not go well after the swap out. And I think that debate was even on October the 1st, I want to say. I think that was one of the key momentum shifters in this race. I think he's the best elected official communicator the Republican Party has produced since Reagan. So I would say I would vote for him. I'll start again here on bummist rap. And Todd, you alluded to this earlier. The Trump is literally Hitler, was literally devastated. I mean, by the many successful, engaging, and accessible conversations that Trump had on the long-form podcast that Aaron talked about earlier in the program as well, when he revealed himself to be anything but. Again, he has positions you don't agree with, right? But in terms of destroying that facade, because they were underwater on all the issues. That's why their entire campaign was kill the babies and Trump is Hitler, okay? And so when you take one of those away and the Trump is Hitler narrative was just completely destroyed, and give the Trump campaign for being the ones that actually destroyed it, give them credit for that, all right? Sarah, I'm going to go back to you for bummist rap.
Bummist rap for me is Daniel Penny. I know the verdict was good, and we were very glad that eventually the justice system played out. But the fact that this man had to spend any time in prison, the fact that this man still, after he was cleared, just like my good friend Kyle Rittenhouse, after he has been cleared and his name has been cleared, he is still never going to outlive the, white man racist narrative. And so it's just disgusting to me that a place like New York City, they can let all of these violent criminals out into the streets to go and reoffend. And someone like Daniel Penny has his name cleared in the legal system, but not in the court of public opinion.
Amen to that. Aaron?
So, bummist rap. I've got Susie Wiles. This is kind of under the radar, but some of the things I'd heard, particularly around the GOP primary that wasn't, I was a little bit skittish about her. But it's clear that she is a stone-cold operator. And from what I've heard as well, and what I've seen that's, available is that she's basically Black Widow to Donald Trump's Hulk.
Great analogy.
And that, sun's getting real low, big guy. She has a
what
way
of
being able to command his staff without actually getting offensive to him. That's hard to do, although Trump is, from what I've seen, he's a changed man now. But I think Susie Wiles got a bum rap for a while.
That analogy is phenomenal. Steve, what do you think the bummist rap was?
Similar thinking to Sarah, but Daniel Penny was acquitted. I'm going with Dexter Taylor, who is now currently incarcerated for being in possession of a firearm as an American citizen in the state of New York. The only reason that came to light was because the ATF was doing unconstitutional searches, and then because they know that he has a constitutional right to have that, they handed it over to New York state authorities. And Dexter cited the Second Amendment in court in his defense and was told by the judge, the Second Amendment doesn't matter in this court. And because it's a state charge, he's not going to be able to be pardoned by Donald Trump.
Oh, wow. Todd?
I didn't even hear about that.
Neither did I. This is the first time hearing about it as well.
Mine's the same as Sarah. Thank God he's innocent, but what he had to go through for doing nothing. Having been there myself to some extent, when I got arrested, was assaulted by cops, tried. You have to go all through that, and if cops and lawyers just decide, you know what, we just kind of want to play with you, just because it's fun,
and the process becomes the punishment.
Yeah, it's rough. So thank God, I came out clean on the other side. So did he. But you had to go all through it, and none of that is just. And no one on my end paid for it. I hope a lot of people paid dearly on the end of Daniel Penny's.
Coming back to you in a minute for Fairest Wrap after we remind everybody about our friends at Constitution Wealth. As you get into the new year now, you start thinking about what are some wiser decisions I can make? Well, here's one. Put your money to good use in the culture war, because a lot of times your money, your investments can be the best weapon you have for your values. For example, how do you use a proxy vote as a shareholder, right? How do you make sure that your portfolio lines up with your principles? Our friends at Constitution Wealth can help you do exactly that. Let them be your ally, helping you to protect everything that you stand for, help you to divest from woke companies, help you to use your proxy voice within these companies also to deter them away from the wokeness and more. So again, take action now. Get a free consultation today when you visit constitutionwealth.com/blaze. A lot of you have, but there's still a lot of stored up audience here. I'm sorry, a lot of stored up wealth here within our audience on the Blaze that could be put to good use here on behalf of the country. All right. So constitutionwealth.com/blaze. Get a free consultation today at constitutionwealth.com/blaze. All right, Todd, right back to you for Fairest Wrap.
Well, Steve, you sent Aaron and I something providentially this morning that only codifies my thinking behind this. It's sports, bro. It's unbelievable what Steve sent us. There's some.
I want the record to show we went almost the entire hour before Todd went there. So good job out of you. Go
there's
ahead,
a sports pro out there saying that just came back from a meeting and he called this is the golden age. A quote, this is the golden age of college football. And then buried way down there as part of this golden age of college football, in order to bring this to life, other sports will have to be canceled. You're idolatrous crackheads. And I'm never going to stop kneecapping you, ever.
Turnabout's fair play. Steve, you got to finish. You got to follow that now, Steve. Go ahead. Your turn. Yes.
Jill Biden, the necromancer-in-chief first lady who
Nice.
has aspired to get credit her entire life. That's why she is a doctor of community college. But she ran her husband and forced him through, even though he was demented and senile in 2020, got to that position of first lady, only to have a coup steal it from her that second term. And now she's going to be out. And because Joe Biden is so angry at the Democrat Party, she's probably not even going to get a soft place to land with some do-nothing job at a presidential library.
I'm going to say after the initial and obvious charm offensive to launch her candidacy, by the end of the campaign, everybody saw why Kamala Harris had the worst favorables of any vice president since we've actually been recording that data. All right. She's unlikable, dumb, and phony. Other than that, she has a wonderful singing voice. All right, Aaron.
Fairest rap is Joe Biden is an evil SOB. His legacy as a politician is what Barack Obama is said to have said about him. You can always trust Joe Biden to F things up. His legacy as a man is that photograph in 1973 of him in the hospital while his son Beau was injured in a hospital bed from a car crash that had killed his then wife and injured his daughter. And he's taking the oath of office for the Senate. He's just a wicked, despicable man. And that's the Fairest rap.
Wow. Sarah, that'll preach.
Yeah, I'm going with ray gun. You may not remember ray gun. Ray gun was introduced to us during the Paris Olympics as she writhed around on the ground in what we now know was supposed to be breakdancing. And the entire world laughed at her. And rightfully so, because she looked ridiculous. She was very upset afterwards. It hurt her feelings. And I'm just going to say it hurt my eyes to watch. So we're going with ray gun.
Nice.
All right, best comeback, rapid fire. All right, I don't know how you come up with anything other than Trump, man. Sometimes Babe Ruth is just Babe Ruth. Michael Jordan is just Michael Jordan, man. Okay. I mean, this is the comeback of comebacks. So I mean, that's all I got. Todd.
For sure. He came back from losing an election. He came back from the lawfare. He came back from getting shot at. This is the obvious answer. Agreed.
Aaron.
Yeah, it's that. I had cool on the right. It's cool to be right wing again. You know, you might not be a fundamentalist Christian, but it's cool to be right.
It is. That's true.
It's the best
too.
comeback because it was coming from nothing.
Yeah, Sarah.
I agree. Donald J. Trump. I've never seen anything like it.
Steve.
Little Marco Rubio, going to be the Secretary of State. He went from kind of being anonymous and nobody really cared about him to all kind of shrugging their shoulders as he's going to be in a really high position running the State Department.
That's good too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Little Marco. You remembered that. That's right. Little Marco. Remember those days watching Trump on the Cruz campaign, watching Trump and Rubio argue with each other about the size of their hands and looking at ourselves like, I thought we were going to discuss like real issues. Nope, we're not.
Times they are changing.
Indeed they are. All right, more in a moment. Hour 2 of the year-end Deace Group is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast, alongside Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, Sara Gonzales, Stephen Friend. I am Steve Deace. It is the special year-end edition of the Deace Group. We'll return to that here in just a moment. First, a reminder, you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. Please also subscribe to our new YouTube channel. We had to start all over with that earlier this year because the censorship we received just crushed it. Okay, so we're starting all over. Please subscribe. Help us to grow there at Deace Show on YouTube, at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you're part of the podcast audience, thank you. We are closing the year with some of our best podcast ratings we've ever had. Please hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow. And that way, every time we do a new episode, it will show up in your feed every single time. And then finally, leave us a 5-star review. So many of you have. Let's keep those going. We appreciate each and every one of those as well. As we appreciate the work of our friends, Voice of Judah within Israel, the ministry there that is living out what the Apostle Paul said when he said, I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes. Well, today, there are over 6.5 million Jews in Israel, a total of 9 million Israelis who have yet to hear the gospel of Messiah Yeshua, which originated from right there in Israel. So Voice of Judah Israel is on the ground there, trying to be the hands and feet of the gospel by serving the charitable needs of the Israeli people, and also with evangelism as well. If you want to partner with this outstanding messianic ministry in order to bring the gospel back to the place that gave it to us, you can support them, learn more about their mission right now. If you go to vojisrael.org/Steve, VOJ for Voice of Judah, voiceofjudahisrael.org/Steve, vojisrael.org/Steve. Again, head there, vojisrael.org/Steve. All right, guys, let's pick right up where we left off. Aaron, I will start with you. In the year 2024, whom do you think was the most original thinker?
So I tried to highlight somebody that maybe our audience hasn't heard of before. I think one of the years I did our own Matthew Peterson before he even started working at the Blaze. This year I want to do William Wolf from the Center for Baptist Leadership. He is an excellent follow on X. I think a lot of the lens in which you need to see this world as it currently exists. I think he does a good job of articulating that. So William Wolf at the Center for Baptist Leadership.
That is a quality shout out there. Sarah, what about you?
I'm going with Scott Pressler with Early Vote Action. You have watched a man who has traveled the country, first picking up trash all across Democrat cities across the country, and his strategic plan to get boots on the ground in Pennsylvania. He was dying. Remember, the RNC with Ronna Romney McDaniel, and she squandered away all of this money on flowers and limousine rides and nothing for get out the vote. And Scott Pressler's watching this go on for years, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. It was really, really tremendous to watch him with this get out the vote effort in Pennsylvania. Obviously, it paid off for him, and I'm really excited to see where he goes next.
Just like a dude in a Honda Accord probably won Bucks County, Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. Yes. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, Todd.
I mean every word of this, because it's just true. Steve Deace, and by extension, the Blaze, Glenn, Matthew, Tyler, Gaston. This thing started off, there were never any memos set out back in January. There were people on this side that were in on Trump, they were in on DeSantis. We got to fight it out and give us your best, and let's see where we go with this. From this show, Steve said, yeah, either way, if DeSantis loses, I'm going with Trump, but you guys do what you want to. And he would have let us. The conversations we have, Catholicism versus Protestantism. I mean, this is real debate that happens on the Blaze. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm so hard on the Anons. The nonsense that Steve's entire career from the beginning has been begging the entire system to have other alternatives. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. And now here at the end, when something we've talked about, everything here that's self-evident with Trump, your anonymous garbage nonsense, yeah, I will not stand for it. This year, the Steve Deace Show has been more Steve Deace Show ahead than it's ever been, and it's an honor and a privilege to work here, brother.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And you got a nice Christmas bonus coming. You did a good job there. You made it. You pulled that off. I was a little concerned. It was going to sound contrived, but you did it. You did it.
At the end of the day, I'm a grifter, and we all know that.
Steve, most original thinker, who do you think it is?
Well, in light of that, I might say Steve Deace myself, but I'm going to go with Chaya Reichik from Libs of TikTok. It continues to be the account online that has spawned 1 million impersonations. It's just exposing the loony leftist communists themselves, let them be hung by their own petard. And as a result, you could have an ad for president that Donald Trump ran that says that Donald Trump is for you and Kamala Harris is for they, them. And it's the most effective thing that we've seen since the counting down for the nuclear explosion.
That's a good one, too. I'm going to go with the pastoral duo behind the awesome podcast, Haunting Cosmos. Brian Suave and Ben Garrett are their names. And I think they are maybe producing the best mystery, conspiracy, legend, mystical broadcast I have ever heard. And you're talking to a kid that, I mean, growing up with my grandma watching me all the time, and she was heavily into the occult. I mean, I must have seen like every episode of In Search of with Leonard Nimoy 57 times. I mean, I watched every episode of Unsolved Mysteries. I was in awe. So I've done a few laps in this genre. And their quality of broadcast is top notch. NPR level quality of production, not in terms of belief system, quality of production. But they do it all through a biblical worldview and a lens. And it's just dang entertaining to listen to. All right. So it's really original. We used to joke on this show during COVID that what was going on in the country, it just at this point was turning me into Alex Jones with Bible verses. That's essentially this podcast. Okay. And they do a phenomenal job. It's great. All right. And they have a new book out. I don't know when it comes out, but I had a chance to endorse it. It's one of the best biblical worldview books I have ever read. It was great.
I loved your assessment when you were talking with them, and like they're all over the place. All these crazy things that don't seem connected at the end of their conclusion. Probably demons.
That's like the answer to every episode. It's just demons. Yes. Just demons, bro. All right. Most stagnant thinker. I will start. The person who keeps insisting the Republican Party has moved left when it's actually furthest to the right that it has ever been. Okay. But they can't get over the fact that a party platform that literally no one read, and take it from someone who helped people get on Republican Party platform committees. No one read the thing. All right. All right. So they can't get over the fact that the platform does not read, okay, like the Didache. All right. They like it used to. All right. And it's just this really generic statement. And so it's like, how this is supposed to work is I am supposed to get the platform and talking points that make me feel morally superior, and then you don't do the stuff I believe. That's how this is supposed to work. It's not supposed to work that you give me a watered-down platform that no one's going to read anyway, and then actually do more of the stuff I believe than anyone ever did before. And so therefore, the Republican Party is furthest to the left it's ever been. Take it from someone who made his bones in this business attacking the Republican Party from the right. Okay. Even doing it on national television, made a career out of attacking the Republican Party from the right. This is the furthest right the Republican Party has actually ever been. Okay. You're wrong. Now, we can debate whether it's right enough. And I think you guys probably know what my answer to that is. Okay. But no, this is not the furthest left it's ever been. It's the furthest right, actually, it has ever been. Todd.
Well, it is the flip side of my previous answer, and I kind of let the cat out of the bag. Aaron, you hammered him as well, but it is a non-con. It's just ridiculous. If you're anonymous online and you're just kind of sharing stuff, reading material, engaged in some nice feisty conversations, amen. But if you're like, I'm in the fight and you're not, and you never know when I'm going to take off that anonymity
I'm coming to your house
to come beat you up, yeah, you're a loser, okay? Stagnant isn't good enough. This is just biggest loser material here. You're not really in the fight. I'm sorry. And once again, you don't know what you're talking about historically. You're not Ben Franklin. You don't know that story. You're not the founding fathers. Anonymous is not the same as
What about Sir Thomas More?
Pseudonyms. You're not him. You're not the letter to the Hebrews. All the things you're saying you are. You're just a loser.
That was fantastic. I do say we need to quicken the pace quite a little bit. We've got 125 more answers in about 38 minutes.
Then Aaron, go.
My most stagnant thinker, basically the same thing. Jonah Goldberg and the Old Guard National Review crowd, they are absolutely irrelevant.
Steve.
Barack Obama, the shine on his penny is not transferable. He has no down ballot, no tailwinds for him, for anybody else. And he continues to go out there and trot the most hateful rhetoric. And I hope he keeps doing it because people keep getting smashed at the ballot box.
He didn't as president either. I mean, he got annihilated both midterm elections of his presidency. When he wasn't on the ballot, he could not get people to win. Sarah.
I'm going with the man who votes forever, sending our money overseas, warmongering, fear-mongering, always quick to suggest sending other people's sons and daughters to die, never met a country he didn't want to bomb while he peruses Grindr and licks his lips, Lindsey Graham.
No. All right. I thought Todd was just flat out condescending to me in a positive way. That is just, that's flattery at this point now.
It was written especially for you.
Yes, I feel like these are long distance dedications. Best photo op. If we've got to speed this up, are we going to have anything better than one of the most iconic photos in American history? Anybody got anything else other than that?
You're talking about fight?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. We already talked about it. I'm going Trump, McDonald's, and Garbage Man.
That's in a normal political campaign. That would be number one. Yes. Anybody? Steve, you had something different?
I had SpaceX landing, kind of just is an Elon Musk reference, but also shows the power of the private industry there that probably could improve on what NASA's been able to do, which is nothing for the last 50 years.
Another one, that's a great answer. Another one would be Trump at the GOP convention almost moved to tears after everything that happened.
All right. Let me go back to you, Sarah, with enough already. What are you sick of, or who, for that matter?
Enough already with the debate of males in female spaces, bathrooms, changing rooms. It's just not controversial. They don't belong there. I cannot wait to be beyond this conversation nationally.
I kind of have a spin on a similar theme. For me, I am sick of the emasculation of men in pop culture. Okay, like Kathy Bates is a great actress, but now Matlock's a chick. Okay, I mean, I at this point, if there's a female protagonist and it's not like someone who has always been in the source material a hero, like Wonder Woman or Heroine or something, I'm just out. I mean, and I hate this. I raised two very strong-willed daughters, man. But you guys have all pushed me to the point now of the minute there's a female protagonist, unless it's from a source material that was recognized prior to 2019, I don't watch, I don't read. I just tap out. I'm just tired of the whole thing. Todd?
Can I say really quickly, as the only woman here, I totally agree with you.
Well, thank you for having my back on that. I appreciate it.
Mine obviously is the same answer as Sarah's, trans terrorism, and it's going to be every year until this nonsense stops.
Steve?
Yep.
Pro athletes doing the Trump dance now that the election is over. They left Harrison Butker out there on the longest limb possible for 6 months, so spare me.
That'll preach right there. Aaron, hadn't even thought of that either.
That's a great one. I'm sick of the pre-diabetic Costco family. Something about the Razzler and bringing the doom. I'm done with it. And it's not something I can like mute from keywords or anything. It just keeps showing up in my feed. I'm done with them.
Worst lie, Aaron. I'm going back to you. Worst lie.
That Trump did not win a mandate. That's the worst lie. Look at everything that he overcame. That is a mandate. And it's just copium of the highest order to say that he didn't win a mandate.
Todd?
Yeah, everybody's picking different segments to talk about how terrible Biden is. This is where, Biden saying he wouldn't pardon Hunter.
Right. Which, did anybody with a double-digit IQ know that was a lie from the beginning? Apparently, lots of people in media didn't know the way they're acting now. Steve, what about you?
Karine Jean-Pierre standing up there, Sideshow Bob haircut, saying that these are all cheap fakes, which fortunately didn't catch hold because we all know that is a human Roomba who is the current president of the United States.
Well, since you went there, that segues into where I'm at. On June 25th, CNN ran the following headline, and I quote, "Right-wing media figures are desperately pushing conspiracy theories about Biden ahead of the debate." Speaking of his obvious cognitive decline, and in reaction to Catherine Jean-Pierre's comment, Steve, that you just referenced to, okay? They ran that on June 25th on CNN. 2 days later, on June 27th, Biden confirmed his escalating senility in front of over 60 million Americans. And by doing so, this ended up being the most consequential presidential debate since 1960. And all by confirming something that 24 to 48 hours before he went to that stage, all of our corporate media was gaslighting us wasn't really a thing. I thought that was the worst lie of the year. Sarah?
Mine was also cheap fakes and deep fakes. It was just incredible to watch. We had these videos that we were watching right before our very eyes, and we were told that it was not so. And then 2 weeks later, as you pointed out, Steve, 2 weeks later, we have the debate and the entire Democrat Party shifts. So we all knew it at the time, but looking back in hindsight, that one the gaslighting there, I'm not going to miss.
For example, I will tell you, DeSantis's pollster told me in late fall of last year that he feared the primary was going to be over before it started because Biden had just fallen down the stairs to Air Force One. You guys remember this? This was late fall of 23, and that went viral. Everyone saw that. And he said that what I fear is our biggest argument is our guy won big in the last election cycle when Republicans underperformed, and can Trump win? If that's off the table, then I'm not sure what our argument is. And that was his fear. And that was over a clip that everyone saw over 9 months before this debate. And yet they were still lying even up until right before the debate itself kicked off. All right. So, folks, before we continue on this Christmas season, you can embark on a cool journey with one of the great works of Western literature, courtesy of our friends over at Hillsdale College. Get their free online course on Dickens' A Christmas Carol, one of my all-time favorite stories. Taught by Hillsdale professor Dwight Lindley, offers new insights into literature's most famous miser, Ebenezer Scrooge, and his famous catchphrase, "Bah humbug." You can sign up for this for free online right now when you go to daceforhillsdale.com. hillsdale.com, just one of the many enriching free courses they offer at Hillsdale. Deace for F-O-R, daceforhillsdale.com. That's where you want to go. Start your free course today. You'll see old things anew, rediscover the joys we often overlook in daily life, what some of these symbols mean. Daceforhillsdale.com is where you want to go to sign up for the free course today. And on behalf of our friends at Hillsdale College, in the immortal words of Tiny Tim himself, a Merry Christmas to all, and God bless us, everyone. All right, Sarah, back to you for Destined for Political Stardom.
I'm going with Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters.
Oh, that's my man.
I think he's a friend of yours.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine as well. And every time I talk to him, I am just so I'm very impressed. It seems that, he's telegenic. He knows, he's well spoken. He knows what he's doing. He's like the perfect package for, I don't know, governor. I don't know, but I just see him rising up the ranks.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying I think he'd make a great governor. Not saying, I'm just saying. Yeah. Steve.
Winsome Sears. She's the lieutenant governor of
Yep.
Virginia. You got 2025 gubernatorial elections going to be happening. She's running. I think she sells a compelling background, great story, also well-spoken. I think that you're going to see her name popping up a lot in the lead up to that election.
Agree with that too. Aaron.
Yeah, until I see evidence to the contrary, and you could say he's already there, but it's J.D. Vance. It's got to be J.D. Vance.
I thought about that too. I went with, but I tried to give as many different mentions to people as I could. I'm going to go with RFK Jr. because he's about to go from someone with a devout but largely obscure following to many Americans and much of that following has been outside the mainstream, to perhaps the most consequential paradigm-shifting cabinet appointment since Kissinger. And Kissinger's the one of the first times that a cabinet appointment crossed over into the mainstream as to something that every American household knew who Henry Kissinger was. It's very possible that you're going to see that happen in the next year with RFK Jr. It's rare for cabinet appointments to become household names, and I think RFK Jr. is about to become one. Todd.
Well, see you and raise you. I'm going with the entire Trump cabinet. Team of rivals, Avengers, whatever you call them, pound for pound, they have the potential to be more transformative than just about any cabinet in American history. And do you remember how we felt after Trump won against Hillary and after his appointments? And I got to take a nap. I mean, this is night and day difference.
Completely different, I agree. All right, I'll start on Destined for Political Oblivion. Pardon me. I'm going to say the Biden name has been at the focal point of American politics for over half a century, my entire life, but it won't be long before no one talks about them anymore except to reset jokes about senility. I don't even think he's going to be a cautionary tale moving forward for a generation like Jimmy Carter was. I think that when this is over, it will just be over. Aaron.
Carrie Lake, I think she's got the position at Voice of America now, but I think her time in political spotlight is over.
All right. What do you think, Steve?
Bob Good, chair of the House Freedom Caucus, was the only incumbent who ran out this past election cycle. And I think that's probably a bad thing for us as a movement.
I agree with that. Sarah?
I would like to add one more honorable mention to Destined for Political Stardom, which is Steve Deace when he primaries Joni Ernst. But aside from that, Destined for Political Oblivion, John Cornyn. There is just no room for traitors anymore in this America First time, and 2026 is getting here soon enough. And please, my lips to God's ears, accountability should be coming.
And therefore, I'm going to go ahead and add an honorable mention when Sara Gonzales primaries John Cornyn. All right. All right, Steve, back to you for best political theater.
I need my answer on this.
Oh, you
one.
didn't? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, Todd.
It's important.
Todd's
mostly,
like, wait a minute. This is a nihilistic category. I get my say. Go ahead, Todd.
A lot
Yes.
of work to do on this, and
Yes.
it's really important as a political construct, but it needs to be done. Illegal immigrants.
Ooh.
That needs to be over. Oblivion.
You want to talk about from your lips to God's ears answer. That's one right there. Yes. Let that be prophecy.
Yes.
Yes. All right, now back to you for best political theater, Todd.
The Seltzer poll. Just, what a joke.
My phone that Sunday, man, I was down in Dallas too, and my phone that Sunday, people panicking about that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Oh man. Steve, best political theater.
Hulk Hogan at the RNC ripping the shirt off. I mean, Donald Trump represents Mr. 80s and this sort of a throwback to Make America Great Again. It was just fun to see.
I got to tell you, man, little Stevie was a Hulkamaniac, man. All right. I had the wrestling album. I watched the wrestling cartoon. I mean, I was into it. I was in, man. And seeing Hulkster there at the convention, I got to admit, it got me in the feels, man. It got me in the feels. It did. Aaron.
Man, the McDonald's thing was awesome, but I loved the garbage truck because this is what happened. It was the evening before that those comments from Joe Biden had surfaced calling Donald Trump supporters garbage. It was less than 24 hours later. Boom! I'm in Wisconsin with a Trump-branded garbage truck. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yes, it was. It was. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm going with the presidential debates. I think all of us have mentioned it so far in one answer or another, but I mean, obviously you see what culminated after these presidential debates. I just never seen anything like it, and I've never been so interested in a presidential debate as I was in that one.
So
for obvious reasons.
My original answer was the garbage truck McDonald's stuff. All right. And then when I was talking about J.D. Vance in an earlier category, I went and looked something up. And that's why I'm going to put Vance's domination of the VP debate here, okay? Here's what I found when I looked this up. Trump had not led in the presidential betting odds since September 10th, when the October 1st VP debate occurred. All right, so that's almost a month, 3 weeks. Kamala was at 54% to win the election the day before the VP debate, 54%. By the end of the week of the VP debate, she would never lead in the election betting odds again.
That's incredible.
And that's why, in terms of performative, nothing tops Trump just handing people their drive-through McDonald's bags. Okay, I mean, that is, and if anything does, it's coming back the next day driving a garbage truck. Okay, but in terms of effectual political theater, that's why I mentioned earlier, I thought the VP debate was maybe the event that swung the momentum in this game. Just looking at that data. All right, worst political theater. Aaron, I'll go back to you.
Spending $100,000 to construct a brand new set for her appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and it didn't matter one iota.
On the other hand, I didn't know what the Call Her Daddy podcast was.
Well, there you
now
go.
I do.
Benefited somebody.
Yeah, benefited the Call Her Daddy podcast.
Yep.
Yes, Todd.
This is more prediction, but things have been trickling out in the last couple of weeks, and it's related to what you said about RFK Jr. Vaccines. It is just heinous political theater, and that's what most of it is. It isn't healthcare, it isn't medicine, it is power and control, and you're about to find out in spades.
Harkening back to something, Steve, you mentioned earlier, my worst political theater, Nikki Haley's attempt to make herself politically relevant all this year was just a day late and a dollar short, and I was here for all of it. Yes. Sarah, worst political theater.
Literally any rally involving Tim Walz, because even I, as a woman, I feel like I'm getting low T just watching the jazz hands and the dancing and the prancing. And you had him out there with it was the most disingenuous odd couple, Chuckles McGee and estrogen-laden Tim Walz.
Tim Walz, or Sarah's just finding little girls in her subdivision to have tea parties with after watching Tim Walz campaign appearances. Yes. Steve, go ahead.
The GOP reps wearing the Laken Riley buttons to the State of the Union. This was an incident they tried to exploit for political gain and then just wanted to forget all about. And thank God the American people didn't. They kept that story front and center as it should be. And I was just grossed out by the entire thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Aaron, back to you. Most underreported story of the year.
Continued saber-rattling and tensions between China and Taiwan. I mean, would you be surprised? I would be a little bit more, based on the election results, surprised one morning, and it's just, it's fireworks over in Taiwan. That could be a really big deal.
Sarah?
The lack of knowledge that we have about the second assassination attempt investigation, the FBI, the ATF, the DOJ, et cetera, stonewalling the investigation into the second assassination attempt, and the lack of knowledge that we have on the first shooter. We heard about all of these, encrypted foreign accounts, and then nothing. It's like it didn't even happen.
We did get a story this week that they shot 5 times at the second shooter from nearly point blank range and missed all 5. Yeah. Steve, as an FBI agent, are you buying that? Are you buying that?
Unfortunately, yes, I am.
Yes.
When you're hoping it's a conspiracy, no, they're that bad. Yes, it's not bad. All right, so Steve, back to you. Most underreported story of the year.
James Comey ran an off-the-books undercover operation where he told 2 undercover female agents to infiltrate the Donald Trump campaign in 2016 and engage in sexual activity with members of the campaign to dig up dirt, and it didn't get anywhere when it was reported a couple weeks back.
I totally missed this.
What the heck?
A straight up Mata Hari level honeypot story on our own FBI did this?
Yes, Kerry Pickett reported it in the Washington Times and did not catch on like it should have.
I did not know about this.
Good grief.
That's the second time, Steve, you have stumped me. I'm going to go with the actual Ukraine war. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is this the most... Not the propaganda, not the funding, not the war itself. The war itself. Where is the footage of the fighting? Where are our casualty reports? Where are the in-bed reporters on the front looking to win their Pulitzers? I mean, where are the graphics of where the opposing forces are and how much ground they have taken? This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. That there's like nothing on the war itself, despite how important we are constantly drumbeated with how important it actually is. Todd?
It's salaciously in the news right now, but that doesn't mean it's being reported on, because this is the kind of end of civilization story that we really should be stopping everything. It said so much about who the hell we are. The girl who slept with 100 men and put it on OnlyFans.
No.
We are in so much trouble. And then how many thousands are paying to watch it? We're in trouble, folks. And we have to reconcile with stories like this. It's not just she's a slut and what. No, we're broken. We're utterly broken.
Amen to that. All right, we don't have time to be fair, I think, to the next category. And I think we could maybe use a little light after what Todd just alerted us to. So let's make sure we talk about our friends over at Preborn. We have had a fantastic partnership with them here at the Blaze for the last couple of years, saving tens of thousands of babies. Preborn's been at this a lot longer, saving hundreds of thousands of babies. Everything they do for the mom is free. For the baby is free. They confront the mom with the knowledge that ultrasound is a heartbeat that doesn't belong to her. It's not an unviable tissue mass. It's another person. And then when mom chooses life, they're there for her and her baby together. Prenatal care, postnatal care, counseling, diapers, formula, car seats, just moral support. All of this, by the way, all of it is free of charge, although none of it is actually free. And this is where you and I come in, folks. I know a lot of you are considering end-of-year giving this time of year. Few causes are more worthy of that gift than our friends over at Preborn. For as little as $28, you can purchase an ultrasound that could save a life as soon as today. Where else do you think you could spend $28 maybe to save a life? All right. So if you want to make a donation today, make a tax-deductible gift at preborn.com/Steve. You can also dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby on your mobile phone, or the simple way. This is what our family does when we give to Preborn. Go to preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. All right. When we come back, we're going to go rapid fire as fast as we possibly can. And then we'll get to the end probably in the overtime. But we did make up some ground there, Aaron, it felt like.
Yeah, I was mostly referring to you and Todd.
All right. Points for honesty. More in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on our penultimate episode of 2024, and every year it's the year-end Deace Group. And you have myself, Todd Erzen, Aaron McIntyre. You're used to us. You're used to Sara Gonzales, though, on her own show. And Steve Friend, FBI whistleblower, who is here intimidating us right before we head home for the holidays. All right, let's pick up where we left off, lady and gentlemen. Most overreported story of the year, Sara.
34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Donald Trump is now a convicted felon, which of course was overreported for the simple, fact that they wanted to tarnish his name in the court of public opinion. We all see how that turned out.
Again, this is something 12 months ago doing this, I would have never guessed. I have the same answer, man. Okay. I mean, I was sitting here in February, March, and April on this show with a spleen like, what are we going to do? They're going to put our candidate in prison. No one has a plan. All right. Well, in the end, all the time spent on all of this lawfare, how consequential it was going to be in the election, how many shows, nights of blocks of programming on corporate news every single night. And in the end, other than billable hours, it accomplished absolutely nothing. Nothing. I just would have never guessed that in a million years. Todd.
All of the economy is actually really, really good, guys.
That's good. Steve, most overreported story of the year?
The dock worker strike that was going to completely be catastrophic for the economy entirely, and then they just resolved it within a day and a half.
Yeah, because the Biden regime was like, we are going to lose by 15 points if we don't resolve this right now. Yes, Aaron.
And it was because of many of those answers that it's Ann Seltzer's Iowa poll. That was just the moldy, rotten cherry on top of all of the media gaslighting this year.
Yeah.
And it was any breath, any breath beyond just, haha, what an idiot, was a waste.
And like a true kamikaze pilot, it was her last poll.
Yep.
Yes. All right, Aaron, I'll go back to you for biggest government waste.
Dick Levine's salary.
Okay. I'm glad. As soon as you led with Dick Levine, I'm like, what's coming next? I like that answer. Good, safe answer. All right. Yes, Steve.
Protective detail for Anthony Fauci, $15 million over the last year and a half.
Whoa. Wow. That is a big waste of money. Especially prison cells are a lot less expensive. Just saying. Not saying. I'm just saying. Todd.
I don't have the energy to be clever on this one. It's Ukraine.
I went with how every dollar spent to protect Donald Trump from assassination attempts. That clearly is the biggest. I thought the biggest waste we had this year. We weren't any good at it. Or we were very good, if you know what I'm saying, money. Very good. Anyway, Sarah, what do you think?
Well, all of it, because taxation is theft. But I did a little digging because I wanted to be fair to this question, and I just want to read this to you. The Congressional Budget Office recently found that Congress provided $516 billion this fiscal year to programs that had expired under federal law.
Wow.
Nearly 500 expired authorizations, and nearly 2/3, $320 billion of that was provided for activities whose authorizations expired more than a decade ago.
Send it to Doge.
Wow. You said
I know.
$5 trillion in funding to programs that expired. I heard that right?
$516 billion to programs that had already expired.
Wow.
That includes the FBI.
Yeah. He said it, not me.
That's true. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. All right. Best government money spent. My answer, the FBI. Best government money spent is the FBI. Actually, I have another answer later. Steve, what's your answer? Go ahead.
Setting Julian Assange free, arranging for that court appearance, and then now he can go off and live the rest of his life.
All right. Aaron.
You should have seen the answer I had before. I decided not to do it. I'll tell you off the air because it could have gotten us in a lot of trouble. But I think it's got to be. So I'm going to go with the default. First responders at the local level, police at the local level, generally speaking, firefighters at the local level.
That's very nice. Okay, that's good. Todd?
I've got a really novel answer. Hear me out. Any state that has same-day election results.
Hey.
That's a great answer. That is a great answer. Sarah, best government money spent?
Well, I would say however much it costs, I don't know how much yet, but however much it costs to get the movers, get the trucks, get the Secret Service detail, pack up Joe Biden's crap, send him back to Delaware for some little, female Matlock and some pudding before he goes night-night. I don't know how much it is. However much it is, pay it.
Now he can go to Delaware. He can just be there at 8 a.m. as opposed to 12 p.m. when he takes a lid. Yes. My best government money spent. Whoever had cleanup duty after a former U.S. Senate staffer filmed himself being bent over by his boy toy in the hallowed halls of Congress for a leaked sodomy sex tape back in February, which, of course, is an excellent metaphor for a Congress that bends us all over daily, just based on the numbers that Sarah just gave us. That congressional custodian deserves a special commendation of dealing with toxic waste. I thought that individual, whoever got that cleanup duty, that is the best government money spent this year. Indeed.
How'd you do that to us?
Yeah.
Notice I saved it towards the end. Huh? No. Todd. Todd, boldest political tactic. Go ahead.
I know we laugh at it now and see it for its failure, but when you consider it at the time, it absolutely stands up, pushing Joe Biden out.
No doubt. Aaron.
Sorry, boldest political tactic?
Yes, sir.
Attempting to primary Donald Trump. Of course, this is a hindsight is 2020 answer, but attempting to primary him was, as we know now, a fool's errand.
So, foolish tactic then. Okay, gotcha.
Bold.
Okay, I gotcha. I'm going to go with Harrison Butker deciding to directly inject himself fearlessly into the culture war when he could have just coasted off another Super Bowl ring that he won back in February. And this forced everyone, including his own teammates, by the way, to reveal which side they were really on. And that's why prior to Trump getting shot, he was my man of the year for the first half of the year. Steve, boldest political tactic.
The DNC allowing abortions live outside, making it the deadliest political convention in history, far exceeded 1968. It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
That is a terrible answer, which is why it's good. Sarah.
I'm going to agree with, I think it was Todd who said the coup of the Democrat presidential candidate, but more specifically, having like, I guess, a 20-year-old intern be the one to endorse Kamala Harris from Joe Biden's X account was just really wild to me. Remember, he wrote the letter dropping out. He didn't endorse anyone. And then all of a sudden on Twitter or X, he did. So having them take that route, very bold.
Worst political scandal? Sarah, I'll go right back to you.
Worst political scandal look, the Biden regime trying to imprison their political opponent. I know we've referenced it many times on this show, but it needs to be referenced. 91 indictments, 34 felony counts, the raid at Mar-a-Lago. I could go on. But just the way that they really, I mean, they went all in on trying to imprison a political opponent in the United States of America.
Amen. Steve.
FEMA's out of money because they spent it all on illegal aliens, and they're not even going to knock on doors of people who have a MAGA sign out in front of their house.
Yeah, that's pretty awful.
That was
Aaron,
mine as well.
That's yours too?
Yep.
Todd?
Yeah, the failure to difficulty of passing the pro-life amendments post-Roe. I mean, it's just a pox on our houses. I'm not naive enough to believe we live in a Christian Valhalla, but the fact that it takes, superhero efforts by Ron DeSantis in a I mean, we must do better.
I'm going to go with the Mark Robinson scandal. It not only ended his once promising gubernatorial candidacy, but it also really hurt Republicans elsewhere down ballot in North Carolina. I just campaigned in that state, across the state, just a couple of years ago, and Republicans had just gotten filibuster-proof majorities on the state Supreme Court and in the legislature, and it dented that state. So despite the fact Trump won it at the top of the ticket, just when that was a state was poised to go deep red, that scandal definitely stymied some of that progress for sure. Best idea of the year, Steve.
I have Make America Healthy Again. It just broadened the coalition, made the tent much bigger, and got people actually excited about finding out about what the ingredients are in the food that they're eating.
I like it. Aaron.
Best idea, using tariffs as a bargaining cudgel. Of course, if it's a 3 or 4% tariff, that's a bad idea. But if you're going to use it as a leverage device, use it as a cudgel. 25, 50% tariffs, that's a good idea. As long as you get a good deal out on the back end.
Amen. My best idea, putting Trump on the long-form podcast with crossover appeal. It's been mentioned a couple other times. But he used it to reinvent himself to millions of voters. I think it's possible without this move. It's quite possible Trump does not win the election. And the Trump Rogan interview specifically, I think it's going to do for the digital generation what the Nixon Kennedy debate did for the television generation. Just as everything was compared politically on TV to impact to that event, digitally moving forward, the Trump Rogan meeting of the minds is going to be the nexus event of the digital age that everything will harken back to. Todd.
We've talked about the Trump fist pump fight as a graphic in terms of its politics, but culturally speaking, that's the biggest idea. What's behind that? Courage. Don't be a victim. Get in the ring. Be a man. Sarah alluded to that at the beginning of the show. Just to see somebody not wilt. That's a really great idea that we need to do a lot more of.
Let's make courage great again. Sarah.
I'll keep it short and sweet. The Department of Government Efficiency. I'm really tired of my tax dollars being squandered. And, obviously they haven't done anything yet, but I have confidence that they will. And it's obviously long overdue.
Aaron, what do you think the worst idea of the year was?
Thinking John Fetterman or any one of the numerous Democrats singing the praises of people like Elon Musk now, thinking they are anything close to one of us or have learned any lessons long term. It's nice. You can grovel. But as for now, talk to the hand.
I'm going to stay in the state of Pennsylvania, or the Commonwealth, I should say, and not making popular Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro the running mate for Kamala Harris. I think it'll end up being this election's Hillary never went to Wisconsin. Maybe he didn't want it, but this is a political party. You don't let people turn those kinds of positions down. So if you let him turn it down, then that was the worst idea of the year as well. Okay, Todd. Although I'm glad they did it, so thank you. Todd.
I'm with you. Tim Walz, terrible idea.
Yep. Steve, worst idea of the year?
Putting Tulsi Gabbard on a no-fly watch list because she said mean things about you on Laura Ingraham, and it activated her and got her and all her supporters to be excited about Donald Trump.
And then now she's in charge of the agency, I understand. Isn't D&I who does that, right? She's in charge of that, right?
It's a DHS watch list, but DNI is providing them the intel.
That is, you can't make that kind of stuff up. Sarah, worst idea of the year?
Thinking that a bunch of 20-something nobodies who use the word brat as a compliment would be able to run a successful presidential campaign for a cackling hyena with a head filled with nothing but hot air.
One of my understated favorite pictures of the year is when they did the unintentional group shot, or they did the group shot of the Biden camp or the Kamala campaign team, and someone said this looks like the current Star Wars writing room. Okay, and it made me laugh out loud. I don't know who said that. I'd give you credit if I remembered, but because I try to do that. But whoever you are, you know who you are. That was a brilliant take. All right. Sorry to see you go, Todd. Who are you sorry to see go this year?
This is personal. I mentioned at the time it happened. I'm 52 years old. Lost my first close friend to a tragic death, drowned while on vacation. Left behind a wife and 2 children. Ben King, sorry to see you go. I love you very much, brother.
Amen. Steve?
Pete Rose. I don't think he lived to actually see the full comeback of his image in the public light, and hopefully it does in postmortem.
Sarah?
Well, now I feel bad because you guys are talking about actual people here, but I was thinking more outside the box here. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm trying to will it into the universe. The upcoming layoffs at CNN. I'm gonna play the world's smallest little violin when that happens.
Well, we did just promote a miser a minute ago, so there's some bah humbug for you. Yes, your jobs. All right. Sorry to see those go. Maybe not. Aaron.
This is only because my childhood paying attention to politics. Presidential debates were like playoff games. That's the only reason I'm sorry to see them go, but they are gone as we've known them in our lifetime.
My sorry to see you go, the reigning national champion Michigan Wolverines. I mean, the legend that is Connor Stallions, perhaps the last great college football team. With college football, as we've known it now, pretty much all but gone. The experience I had to start this year off at the Rose Bowl, hat tip to our friend and loyal listener, Paul Engel, for making that happen. You guys, by the way, Todd and Aaron, you still have the standing invite of your teams next time they make it out there? All right.
Yeah, one of my daughters, who he helped because of his job and what she wants to go into, they were recently trading for something, some text back and forth for a class project that she had to do. And he said, I'd love to have your dad out here sometime, but I don't think the Badgers are going anytime soon. And
I mean, it's an experience I'll never forget. And getting the greatness of the game. It's Nick Saban's last game. Had no idea after the fact. The greatest coach of all time. It's the Rose Bowl. It was a perfect day. We got VIP treatment to get to share that with my son and my wife. And that the photo that we took afterwards, right after that 4th down stop in overtime with Jalen Milroe, and we have a photo where you can see, I've shown it to you guys, the Michigan team is rushing the field in the background, and there's a photo of the 3 of us. I mean, it was just a perfect day, and I wanted to take one last moment to thank friend of the program, Paul Engel, for making that happen. All right. 15 minutes of fame, Steve.
Well, honorable mention to the prior category, James Earl Jones. But 15 minutes of fame for me.
The voice of the Michigan stadium entry video as well. You bet, yes.
Fannie Willis. She was supposed to be yet another one of the lawfare prosecutors, and she, I guess, keeps cash around her house or something to that effect, and now she'll have no political prospects going forward. That's
a good one. Todd?
I pray it stays 15 minutes of fame, but the fake folk hero and disgrace to the Marines, Connor Stallions.
Oh, no. His fame has just begun to ascend, brother. He is a multi-dimensional legend. Sarah, yes.
The Hawk Tua girl, whose name I can't remember at this time.
I don't even know her name.
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
that's kind of the point. I think I read that she just released a coin and scammed people out of money and then disappeared. So.
Oh boy.
What are the odds? Same exact answer. She is this year's Rich Men North of Richmond guy.
Wow. I didn't know about the coin thing. I'm not doing my job. This is the 3rd time you guys have told me something I didn't know. All right. So she scammed a bunch of people. Was it intentional? Do you know?
That's what I read. And then she disappeared from X. So you would think that it would be intentional.
Yeah, I don't know her name either. I just know Haktua. I don't even know her name. All right. I'm gonna go with. Do you guys remember the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse?
Yes.
Oh,
Remember that? That was gonna be like the end of supply chains in the Western Hemisphere. Remember that?
I do.
Good times. Good times. All right. That's it. All right. We've got 8 categories left to close it out. Best spin, most honest, most overrated, most underrated, New Year's resolution, capitalist of the year, person of the year, and one big prediction for the new year. We're going to do those in overtime. Steve and Sarah, you both have fulfilled your obligations to our audience. You are welcome to stay for the overtime if you want, but you are not obligated. Just understand, if you bounce, we will shame you mercilessly behind your back. All right. So if you're okay with that, then we are too. Okay. All right. For the rest of you, if you're not a Blaze TV subscriber, now you want to become one. BlazeTV.com/Deace. Go there now. Get a discount so you don't miss the conclusion to the year-end Deace Group. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, with the final show of the year. Until then, Romans 8:28.